Spring had finally taken root on Elm Street. Overnight rain still clung to the grass in silver beads, and the maples that gave the street its name were just pushing out soft green leaves, the kind that look almost translucent when the light hits them. A school bus hissed to a halt 2 blocks away. Somewhere, a kettle clicked off. A delivery van idled briefly, then drifted on, leaving behind the faint smell of warm brakes. At number 42, Anna slid open the deadbolt and let the front door swing wide to the porch. Cool air moved through the entryway, bringing the smell of wet earth and a hint of lilac from the neighbor's hedge. Keys in one hand, leash in the other, she whistled once. Max came at an easy trot from the kitchen, golden retriever, broad-chested, feathered tail swaying. He sat by the door without being asked, the picture of practiced routine. Anna clipped the leash to his collar, rubbed the soft fur behind his ears, and smiled. "Quick loop and breakfast," she promised. "We'll beat the school rush." The porch steps creaked the way they always did on damp mornings. Anna took the first one down. Max followed, pausing to sniff the railing, then the post at the bottom, then the first square of sidewalk. He drew a long breath through his nose the way dogs do, steady, deliberate, sampling layers of scent stacked in the air. "Come on, bud," Anna said lightly, giving the leash a gentle automatic tug toward the gate. Max didn't move. It wasn't bulky or playful. He stood with his front paws on the final step and his back paws on the porch landing, body angled forward but weight not committed. Ears up, mouth closed, nose working. His tail had stopped its easy pendulum and settled halfway, undecided. Anna paused. "You good?" she asked, half laughing as she took one more step into the yard. Max stepped off the porch, but instead of heading for the gate, he veered right, onto the lawn. He set his front paws on the grass and took another long draw of the air, this time lower, closer to the soil. He walked a slow arc that put him parallel to the sidewalk, then stopped again, head lifted toward the street. The leash went slack. From where she stood, Anna caught only the ordinary morning. Damp sidewalk, the faint tang from asphalt still wet in shaded spots, coffee on someone else's porch, a whiff of fertilizer from a yard 2 doors down. Nothing sharp, nothing odd. "Max?" She gave the leash the smallest pull. He planted. Not a yank back, just a quiet refusal that traveled through the nylon like a message. Not there. She tried her usual tricks. Walk? Nothing. Park? A flick of an ear, but no step. She touched his shoulder. He shifted weight without leaving his patch of grass. His eyes tracked along the curb toward the middle of the street, then back to her, as if asking her to notice what he already knew. The school bus turned the corner. Kids' voices rose and fell. A jogger went by on the opposite sidewalk with the bright, quick rhythm of someone late for work. A sparrow raided a puddle, flinging droplets. Everything normal, and yet Max was not. He took 3 measured sniffs in the same direction, then released a puff of air through his nose, the soft huff he made when sorting a scent from background. He stepped forward exactly 1 pace, still on the grass, then leaned over the strip of sidewalk as though a line had been drawn at the edge. His mouth stayed closed. The tail stayed at half-mast. "Okay," Anna murmured, her voice changing without her quite deciding it should. She knelt to his height, palm flat against the warm fur of his chest. His heartbeat felt steady, not panicked, but focused. She followed his gaze, past the gate, across the short walkway, to the shallow crown of the road where a hairline crack spidered along the asphalt. The city had been through last month, filling a bigger pothole at the corner. A chalk mark still ghosted the surface near the drain. Nothing to look at, nothing to smell, except Max smelled something. He lifted his head again, nostrils flexing, and this time Anna caught the faintest tickle in the nose. There and gone, the way a scent rides the lightest ripple of air. She might have imagined it. She wasn't sure. Max seemed very sure. Cars went by at a crawl, the neighborhood pace, tires whispering over the damp. Each pass brought a small change in air pressure, a micro gust that made the lilac hedge stir. With every car, Max's ears tweaked, and each time his nose tipped more toward the middle of the street to a spot just offset from the storm grate. Anna stood, shading her eyes against the flat morning brightness. She tried to catalog possibilities. A dropped sandwich from yesterday's mail carrier, a raccoon trail from the night, a dab of motor oil. But Max had smelled 1,000 lunches, followed 100 raccoon trails, and ignored countless oil spots. This wasn't curiosity, it was caution. She unclipped the leash, rare for the front yard, but the gate was closed, and let it dangle from her hand. "Show me," she said, a game from puppyhood. Light, but intentional. Max stepped to the gate, stopped at the line of the fence slats, and looked through. He didn't paw. He didn't whine. He breathed. 1, 2, 3 slow pulls. Then he glanced up at her and shifted back onto the grass again, drawing himself away from the sidewalk, as if distance itself were safety. Across the street, Mr. Hernandez eased open his screen door to fetch the paper. He lifted 2 fingers in a neighborly hello. Anna lifted hers back but didn't call out. She was watching Max now the way Max was watching the street, trying to read signals below the noise. The morning held its breath for a second. No bus, no jogger, no passing car. And in that quiet, the air felt thinner, light, almost empty. A whisper of something sharp seemed to ride the edge of it. Not strong, not certain, but there. Max flicked his eyes to her again. "Now you smell it." Anna swallowed, suddenly aware of how quiet the house behind her was, how ordinary and fragile mornings could be. She slid the leash back onto Max's collar with a soft click. "Okay," she said softly, decision settling in. "We're not going that way." She backed them both toward the porch, keeping her eyes on the street the way you keep eyes on surf when you think a bigger wave is building. Max came willingly, tail loosening a fraction as their distance from the sidewalk grew. At the top step he sat facing out, watchman on his own small rise. On Elm Street, the day went on. Dogs barked 2 blocks over, someone laughed on a phone, a garage door rattled open. But at number 42, the routine had changed by a hair. A dog had drawn a new boundary around an ordinary space, and a person had decided to trust him. What they didn't know yet was how thin the boundary really was, or how close the danger ran beneath their feet. The kitchen clock ticked on while Anna made her coffee. The leash coiled loosely on the counter. Max stayed by the front door instead of wandering off to his bed, like he usually did after a morning walk. He sat with his chest tall, ears canted forward, eyes fixed on the world beyond the glass pane. Anna's mug steamed as she joined him. "You're on guard duty today, huh?" she murmured, sipping. She expected him to relax now that they were back inside. Instead, his nose pressed lightly against the lower corner of the door, drawing slow, deep breaths through the narrow gap where the seal didn't quite meet the frame. His nostrils flared, then tightened, as if sorting something faint from the jumble of morning smells. She opened the door again, curious, letting the cool air push in. The yard smelled just as it had before. Damp mulch from the flower beds, a faint trace of cut grass, lilac blossoms drifting over from next door. But Max's whole body tensed the moment the air moved around them, muscles tight under his fur. Anna stepped out onto the porch and tried to see the world through his attention. Across the street, Mr. Hernandez bent to pick up his newspaper. The white van that delivered bread to the corner cafe rolled past without slowing. Everything ordinary. But Max's gaze never left the strip of road near the storm drain, just offset from the center, where the asphalt looked darker from last night's rain. She glanced at the spot herself. A faint hairline crack spidered outward from the curb, barely noticeable unless you were looking. It didn't seem like anything. Still, Max's nose twitched in its direction again, his tail giving a low, uncertain sway before going still. "Strange boy," she said softly, running her hand along his back. Normally, even if something caught his interest, he'd want to investigate, sniff closer, pull toward it. Today he stayed rooted to the safety of the porch, watching from a distance as if proximity itself was a bad idea. A light breeze shifted across the yard. Anna caught the faintest tickle in her own nose. Not quite a smell, more a sensation, as though the air carried something sharp on the edge of perception. It vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by the sweetness of the lilac. She almost convinced herself she'd imagined it. Max's head lifted a fraction higher. His ears pivoted, not toward a sound, but with the tiny adjustments of an animal tracking an invisible trail. His mouth stayed closed. His breathing stayed slow and deliberate. Anna's neighbor from 2 houses down, a woman named Claire, passed on her morning jog. She waved without breaking stride. Max didn't bark, didn't wag, just followed her with his eyes until she was past the suspicious stretch of road. Only then did he look away, glancing back at Anna, like he was checking that she'd seen what he'd seen. Something in that look made Anna feel a pinch of unease she couldn't quite shake. It wasn't alarm yet, just the quiet pressure of knowing that the animal who notices every squirrel, every leaf rustle, every delivery truck sound, was ignoring all of it to keep his attention locked on one thing. The coffee in her hand had cooled by the time she went back inside, but Max remained in place by the open door. She left it ajar, watching him breathe in the morning air with the patience of a sentry. If this were just a whim, it was a stubborn one. And if it wasn't a whim, she was starting to wonder what, exactly, her dog was smelling that she couldn't. By mid-morning, Anna decided to try again. The leash was in her hand, the gate key in her pocket. Maybe Max had just been feeling cautious earlier, she reasoned. A leftover from some smell carried in the night. Now the sun was higher, the street was busier, and maybe whatever had unsettled him had blown away. But the moment she clipped the leash to his collar and reached for the gate, Max's entire body said no. He moved a single step forward, then stopped hard, planting his front paws in the grass like anchors. His back legs braced slightly, just enough to resist without jerking the leash. His head was low, nose working in short, deliberate bursts toward the same patch of street. The sunlight caught in his amber eyes, but there was no easy sparkle in them today. Just focus. Come on, buddy, Anna coaxed, giving the leash a small, encouraging tug. The nylon pulled taut, but Max didn't budge. He wasn't playing. He wasn't distracted by a squirrel or another dog. This was stillness with purpose. She tried moving in a different direction, toward the corner where they usually turned for the park. Max followed, but only as far as the edge of the yard. The instant their path would have taken them onto the sidewalk toward that section of street, he stopped again. His tail gave one slow sweep before going still. Anna crouched beside him. "What is it?" she asked softly, searching his face for some clue. His ears twitched back and forth, sampling the air. Then, slowly, he backed away from the sidewalk entirely, retreating until all four paws were on the lawn again. This time, he sat down deliberately, facing the street like a sentry at a post. His breathing stayed quiet, but his nostrils flared in a rhythm she'd never seen from him before, as if he were taking the air apart into separate threads, sorting them, discarding some, locking onto one. Anna inhaled deeply through her own nose, trying to find what he found. Damp concrete. Morning coffee drifting from the open kitchen window. The faint metallic tang of a car idling down the block. Nothing sharp, nothing dangerous. Max's gaze didn't waver. A car rolled past slowly, its tires hissing on the still wet asphalt. As the airflow shifted, Max's head tilted just slightly, following something invisible across the street. Then, he gave the smallest shake, the kind he sometimes made when a fly buzzed too close, and went still again. Anna knew dogs could be stubborn, but this wasn't stubbornness. This was instinct. The same instinct that made him bark from 2 rooms away when someone stepped onto the porch. The same instinct that pulled her back from crossing a path when a stray dog came running years ago. Except this time, there was nothing to see. "All right," she said finally, unclipping the leash. She didn't want to drag him where he didn't want to go, not when his refusal was this complete. Max lay down in the grass, head still up, watching the quiet strip of road as though something might happen at any moment. And in that strange, still morning light, Anna couldn't help feeling as though something would. Anna was still on the porch with Max when the sound of a screen door creaking open drew her attention. Across the street, Mr. Hernandez stepped out in his worn slippers, bent down, and scooped his rolled newspaper from the top step. He straightened with a slow stretch, scanning the street the way people do when they've lived in one place, long enough to notice every change, however small. "Morning," Anna called, raising a hand. He waved back, then tilted his head toward Max, who remained lying in the grass, gaze locked on the same spot in the street. "He on strike today?" Anna gave a short laugh. "Sort of. He doesn't want to leave the yard. Keeps staring at the road like there's something out there. Mr. Hernandez's eyebrows lifted a fraction. You know? He paused, glancing toward the section of curb Max was watching. That's interesting. Last night when I took the trash out, I thought I caught a smell. Just for a second, like rotten eggs, maybe? I figured it was nothing. Maybe the garbage pickup truck had leaked something. Anna felt the small muscles at the back of her neck tighten. Rotten eggs. It was the kind of odd, specific description that landed with weight. She'd read enough safety pamphlets to know what it usually meant. Gas? She asked, her voice lower now. He nodded, frowning. Could be. Or something else, but it was faint. Only smelled it when I was standing right near that drain. Anna looked down at Max. His head was still up, ears tuned forward, the tip of his tail giving a single, slow movement before going still again. He had been watching that spot for over half an hour without losing interest. Mr. Hernandez shifted the newspaper under his arm. Could be nothing, but dogs pick up on stuff like that way before we do. The comment landed harder than he probably intended. Max, who could smell a treat from 3 rooms away, was refusing to go anywhere near the road, not pulling toward it, not sniffing closer, just holding a steady, cautious distance. The breeze shifted again, and Anna caught the faintest ghost of something sharp and sulphurous in the air. There and gone, almost swallowed by the smell of damp pavement. She blinked, uncertain if she'd imagined it. When she looked back, Mr. Hernandez had already stepped inside, door closing behind him. The street was quiet again, the only movement the swaying of new leaves in the morning light. Anna exhaled slowly, her thoughts running faster now. She didn't know for certain what was happening under the street, but Max's behavior and that smell were no coincidence. She reached down, resting her palm against the warm fur of his neck. Good boy, she murmured, and meant it in a way she hadn't yet explained, even to herself. Anna stayed on the porch a long moment after Mr. Hernandez went inside, the weight of his words settling in. The smell of rotten eggs, even faint, even fleeting, was not something to ignore. And Max had been telling her since sunrise that something was wrong. She unclipped the leash completely, letting it coil on the porch rail, and stepped inside to grab her phone. Max followed only as far as the open door, then stopped. From the threshold, he kept his eyes on the same patch of street, his body angled toward it like a compass needle finding north. Anna thumbed the number for the gas company's emergency line. A calm but alert voice answered, Gas Emergency Services. What's your location? She gave her address and explained, carefully, what had happened. Her dog's refusal to approach the street, her neighbor's comment about a smell the night before, her own brief whiff of something unusual. The dispatcher's tone changed from polite to precise. Okay, ma'am, I need you and your neighbors to stay clear of that section of the street. Do not attempt to locate the source yourself. We're sending a crew immediately. They should be there within the hour. Anna thanked them and hung up, her pulse ticking faster now. Back outside, she spotted Mrs. Patel 2 doors down, walking toward the mailbox. Anna crossed the lawn to intercept her, explaining in quick, calm words what was going on. Mrs. Patel's eyes widened, and she turned back toward her porch, calling for her husband to stay inside. Max had moved to the top of the porch steps, front paws planted, tail still. He didn't growl or bark. His watchfulness was quieter than that, but no less sharp. His head tracked the occasional passing car, but his focus snapped back to the same spot in the road every time the air shifted. 20 minutes later, a white utility truck with bold blue letters, Gas Emergency on its side, rolled onto Elm Street, parking well short of the address Anna had given. 2 workers in heavy boots and reflective vests stepped out, each carrying a metal case. Anna pointed them toward the section near the storm drain. Max followed their movement with hawk-like precision, his eyes narrowing slightly as they approached the spot he'd been avoiding all morning. One of the workers crouched, setting down a small meter with a flexible wand attached. He moved the wand slowly along the edge of the curb, watching the readout. Within seconds, a rapid beeping filled the air. Positive reading, he called to his partner. Anna felt a shiver run down her spine. She didn't understand the numbers on the meter, but the certainty in the worker's voice told her enough. They marked the area with spray paint and set orange cones in a wide circle, one of them telling her, "Good thing you called. This could have been a lot worse." Anna glanced at Max. He was sitting now, tail curled around his legs, but his gaze was steady, as though he'd known all along. The workers wasted no time. One returned to the truck for a long metal probe, sliding it into the ground through a hairline crack in the asphalt. The other crouched with the gas meter, reading the air that hissed faintly from the opening. Anna stayed back on the porch, Max beside her. He watched every movement with a steady gaze, ears flicking toward the faint clinks of tools on the pavement. The wind carried just enough of the strange scent now for Anna to catch it clearly. That sharp, sulfurous edge, like a match about to strike. She realized how close she had been to walking him directly over that spot just hours earlier. One of the workers looked up from his reading. Yeah, that's definitely a leak. Gas is escaping under the street, moving through the soil. The rain probably helped carry the odor closer to the surface. His partner was already hauling a short section of barricade from the truck, setting it in the road to block passing cars. They worked in practiced silence, each step deliberate. Then came the part that made Anna's chest tighten. The first worker scraped back a small section of crumbling asphalt with a flat-edged tool. A plume of air hissed out, carrying the smell in a sudden, concentrated wave. Even from 20 feet away, it stung her nose. Max's head jerked up, nostrils flaring. He shifted one step back toward the porch door without Anna prompting him. That's why you don't mess with this stuff, the second worker said, half to himself. Gas under pressure, right under a road, people walk on every day. They worked for nearly an hour, shutting off the main supply to that section, cutting into the asphalt, and exposing the corroded pipe below. It was a thick steel line, but along one seam the metal was darkened and pitted, a small fracture glinting wet in the morning light. The lead worker straightened, wiping his hands on his vest. That right there, he said to Anna, could have gone from a slow leak to something dangerous real fast. If enough gas collected in one spot. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Anna nodded slowly, her hand resting on Max's neck. His fur was warm under her palm, but she felt the steady beat of his pulse. Calm now, no longer tense. The work was noisy, but he seemed to understand the danger was being handled. By the time the crew began sealing the pipe and packing the opening with fresh soil, Anna had no doubt about what had happened that morning. Max hadn't just been reluctant. He'd been protecting her, and in a way, the whole street. By late afternoon, the road crew had patched the asphalt and loaded their tools. The gas leak was fixed, the barricades removed, and the faint, acrid smell that had lingered in the air all morning was gone. Neighbors began to drift outside, curious to see what the commotion had been about. A few had heard from Mrs. Patel or Mr. Hernandez. Others had watched from behind curtains as the utility truck came and went. When Anna explained what had happened and how it had started with Max refusing to step onto the street, the story spread quickly up and down Elm Street. Mrs. Patel came over with a plate of still-warm cookies, crouching to give Max a scratch under the chin. Good boy, she said with quiet emphasis, as though thanking him directly. Mr. Hernandez shook his head in wonder. You saved us all some real trouble, amigo, he told him. Max took the attention calmly, as if he didn't understand the fuss. Or maybe as if he did, but saw no reason to make much of it. For him, it had simply been a matter of paying attention to something important and holding his ground until Anna understood. That night, Anna sat on the porch steps with Max stretched out beside her. The street was quiet now, the air cool and clean. Overhead, the first stars winked between tree branches. She ran her hands slowly along his back, feeling the rise and fall of his steady breathing. You knew before any of us, she said softly, and you made sure I listened. Max gave a soft sigh, resting his head on her knee. His tail tapped once against the wood, not in excitement, but in the easy rhythm of contentment. From that day on, Anna made herself a promise. If Max ever stopped in his tracks like that again, she wouldn't push him forward. She wouldn't dismiss it as a quirk or a whim. She would trust the instincts that had kept them both, and the whole street, safe. And so, on Elm Street, the quiet figure of a golden retriever sitting watch at the edge of a yard became more than just part of the scenery. He was the dog who smelled trouble before anyone else could. The dog whose refusal to cross an invisible line had kept a hidden danger from turning into disaster. Sometimes, a hero doesn't come with sirens or flashing lights. Sometimes, a hero just comes with four paws, a keen nose, and the patience to make you understand.